Hello, this is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. So I was not able to make it on Friday, and I know Friday we were supposed to continue the conversation about the work permit, how to get your work permit, questions about the work permit, and of course, any other questions that you may have about your immigration process. So I want to dedicate the next half an hour to just questions. So put your questions in the comments now so I can go through those questions and answer them one by one. As long as you have an immigration related question, I would gladly answer the question for you. So it doesn't just have to be about the work permit, it could be about anything that is related um, to the immigration process. Now, before I get started, though, I want to tell you some good news that I got over the weekend. I received news from the office that my clients were approved for the marriage based green card without an interview. So they are still waiving interviews here. And based on how the office is working, they really do want to grant the green card without the interview. The reason being, they are trying to push the processes forward, they're trying to reduce the backlog. So they are waiving interviews. This is the second waived interview in the last month that I've received in the marriage based process. But listen, they're not going to, it doesn't mean because they're waiving the process, does not mean that they are going to make your process easier by overlooking the fact that you didn't submit evidence or you didn't submit some documents. So just be very careful about not thinking that because they're waiving the interview, it's an easier process. But with what I focus on with all of my clients' applications is detail. That's what really makes my approval rating so high, is that we take the time, we stop, we take the time to focus on detail to make sure that the immigration service will have all their questions answered, that they, and I mean, regard, sometimes even with a lot of detail you still have to answer questions from the immigration service, but we want to reduce those questions, reduce the possibility of maybe getting a nasty request for evidence or a lengthy one that's going to cause delays. And so the secret to getting your interview waived is submitting a very detailed, solid application. So when I work with my clients, we work together to gather the evidence. I don't rush applications in and then worry about the details later. Because when you do that, you are asking the immigration service to schedule the interview. Because whenever the officer is looking at the documents and they just feel like they have too many questions, they're going to schedule that interview. They're going to bring you in, and then you're going to have to look at a lengthier process because now they have to get you into the interview, and a more intimidating, stressful process. Even though going through the marriage-based interview is routine for me, and I pretty much know what to expect. Uh, Remember, this is the first time that the client may be going in for their interview. This is nerve-wracking for them. And so if you can create a solid application from the start to then submit, to then get your interview waived, why not take the time to make sure you do it right? And the investment, because usually the officers can spot a do-it-yourself application, and do-it-yourself is fine, but do-it-yourself applications usually means that you're not putting thought into the legal requirements. You're looking at it from, say, the layman's perspective. You're not really thinking about the particular statute or regulation or case law that refers to the type of evidence you're submitting. So that expertise is not there. And so when that expertise is not there, you may submit documents that it's not really going to make a difference for your case because you didn't submit the right documents. For example, you may not have submitted certified documents, or you may have. One thing I find with my experience is that there's a misconception. For example, with the bank statement, you just send in the top page of the bank statement when the officers want to see the full bank statement. So sometimes you get a notice of intent to deny just based on bank statements that are incorrect, and you may not be able to identify why is it they're looking at it in such a detailed way. And so you think the way we, like for example with past clients, the way we've corrected this is we've asked our clients to just provide us more detailed evidence of the bank statements, and that could be one way that fixes the situation. So, think about, if you want to get your interview waived, think about the investment, the time you have to put in there, be thoughtful about your process, and understand that sometimes you just do need help to get to that place. All right. So there I am going off. I don't want to take too long because I want to focus on your questions. But we got this good news today. So my client is getting their green card in the mail, no interview, and they get to move on and walk into the sunset with each other happily ever after. So it was really a great weekend knowing that one more case closed with great results. Now, I want to answer your questions. Put your questions in the comments now. So I did see somebody ask me to put my number in the comments. So let me go ahead and do that. It's 561-405-4889. And going forward, I'll see if I can figure out how to post it on the screen while I'm talking so that you all can see. It's under Immigration Lawyer Sharifa. That's one way to get help to schedule your own appointment. But keep in mind that you can also schedule it online yourself by going to the link in the profile. When you click on the link in the profile on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, Facebook, it's in the description of the video, you will have a link that says go and schedule your own appointment. So use that. It's really easy, and you can get in on the calendar ASAP. The calendar is filling up, so you want to make sure you get on it. All right. So let's go to questions. I'm going to start here. So let me start I'm going to start on TikTok first. So see, thanks so much for all the love. I appreciate it. All right, so let's go through. Can I apply for citizenship if I have only the I-551 stamp in the passport, never received physical green card? Yes, you can. I just got a green card approved for a client who never received her green card. And before she met me, she never even received her I-551 stamp. We got her approved for her green card. So, I mean, not her green card, her citizenship. So yes, I know it because I've done it. So now I don't know if you qualify in regards to other requirements, but in regards to the I-551 stamp, it is evidence that you're a permanent resident. And as long as you qualify in other ways, meaning you meet the residency requirement, the physical presence requirement, good moral character requirement, you can pass the English reading and writing test, then you'll be on your way. When they ask for evidence and you send it in, how long do they take to let you know they received it? Sometimes right away, and sometimes, unfortunately, they don't update it. So I find that when we send the evidence sometimes to the field offices, so they're in the final stages of making a decision. They need a final document. We send it in. Sometimes it just sits there, and then we get the approval notice, which That, for example, that happened with this case. We sent in the response to the request for evidence, and then we just got the notice that it's approved. So we didn't get any updates. With the request for evidence, what I find is you have to, sometimes no news is good news. It just depends on what kind of request for evidence. For example, with the support. The affidavit of support, if you don't hear from the immigration service about the saying they received it, um, it means that they don't need anything else and they're going to continue processing your case. So that's what I usually take it as, until maybe we get something else. But if you get something else, it means that you maybe didn't answer the question that they asked. So it is sometimes no news is good news until you get that approval. Um, for example, here, this is where it's very important to just leave it to the experts. So someone here in the comments said, no, you need the green card first before you can apply for citizenship. I can tell you as the attorney here, you do not need to have that green card in hand. I have had a client who had nothing. That green card fell into the bottomless pit somewhere. They never found her green card, never sent her a green card, never gave her an I-551 stamp. We got her the I-551 stamp and then got applied for citizenship with only the I-551 stamp. So I can tell you right now, as long as you qualify in other ways, you can use the I-551 stamp. So make sure you get advice of an attorney. Very important. Wanted to know if H-2B workers can file for their green card without having to be married. No. So H-2B, just being an H-2B worker will not give you the green card. I mean, unless something changes in the law in the future. And after the election, there'll be some positive reform if the right people win the election. But as of now, as the law stands, no. Okay, so if you can't find your case on SEAC, that's where you apply for the visa. I would have to know more regarding that situation. It may be that it is lost or it never generated in the first place. Turnaround time when you request a FOIA, so I'd say 2 to 3 weeks for FOIA. Now, FOIA is the Freedom of Information Act, and it usually allows you to request your records. So that's one. My I-765 was denied. Can I appeal it? Now, does it make sense to appeal it? It just depends. So what were you applying for the I-765 based on? What was the basis of the denial? And then you have to also take into consideration, will the appeal take longer than the actually just refiling the application? These are considerations that we would have to take think about. But we have to know, what are you applying? What's the I-765 based on? The I-765 is the work permit application, but how do you qualify for it? And that, then we could determine whether, the decision was a correct one or whether there was an error in law. How long after receiving work permit does the SSN come? About 2 weeks. I've been seeing it come sooner. And this is for adjustment of status applications. With T's, for example, when the work permit come for the T status, it doesn't come with a social security number. My clients have to go and apply on their own at the social security office. But with adjustment of status work permit, that SSN usually comes 2 to 3 weeks afterwards. But no worries, if it doesn't come, guess what you can do? You can go right back to the social security office and go apply with using your work permit, and they'll send you another one in the mail. Do you have the fully background check on your clients before sending their paperwork to the USCIS? So it's very important to make sure that we understand our clients' backgrounds. If we do have any doubts or any questions about their background, that background check is essential. So it is an essential part of the preparation process in some cases, just depending on how complex the case is. Can I file my I-130 without bank statement? Sure, but what other evidence do you have to show that you qualify to be approved for the I-130 petition? Now, there's not anything that says there's a one size fits all for evidence that will be attached to the applications. However, if you're not going to submit joint bank accounts, if this is a marriage based process, what else do you have to show that you are a bona fide couple? How can I get the work permit? I live in Jamaica. So if you live in Jamaica, you cannot get a work permit. Work permits are for those who qualify. So just by coming to the US, you're not going to get the work permit. You do have to qualify, and you have to qualify in some way. And that's what I do in the consultation is I determine how you qualify for the work permit if you're here. Now, you won't just qualify for the work permit just because you overstayed or just because you're here in the US. But what happens is I hone into the experiences of my clients, who are their family members, what experiences have they gone through, what's going on in their lives, what are their goals, and then I can determine whether they qualify for a benefit that leads to the work permit. Now, you said you currently live in Jamaica. You do not qualify for a work permit. If you live in another country, you will not be applying for a work permit. You will be applying for a visa through the embassy. So that's the difference here. Can I apply for pregnancy chip Medicaid if I'm applying for residency? Is that public charge? Right now, the law says that Medicaid alone is not a public charge. It doesn't lead to a public charge. So and in some cases, what happens is you may be exempt anyway from any kind of public charge consideration because you're pregnant, seeking possibly emergency Medicaid. And then sometimes the benefits come to your child, go to your child once your child is born. So right now, as the law stands, not to say, remember, in the past, Trump was making that a public charge. Public charge means that they find that you've taken public benefits, certain public benefits, and now you're a public charge, meaning in how Trump wanted to put it was it showed then that the immigrant was a burden on the system. And as a result of that, that immigrant was inadmissible. That was the policy when Trump was in. And you had to fill out extra paperwork. They would run things like credit checks, take into consideration debts of the immigrant. I mean, just a nightmare, a nightmare. They would take into consideration different factors to determine whether the immigrant would be a burden on the system. They would take into consideration their age, take into consideration their education, their work history, their health. So if the person was very sick, then that could mean that was very sick and with very few means, that could possibly mean a denial. They also had to show medical insurance and good credit counted here. So it was a nightmare. Thankfully, it didn't get, I mean, we did have to submit forms, but when the Biden administration came in, they lifted all of those requirements within a short period of time. And as a result, many people move through the process without those extra considerations. But that's there to um, limit immigrants who can be approved. Does a J1 married to a US citizen have to wait until they're out of status to request no objection a waiver? No. So that no objection waiver you can apply for at any time. What if you had hit and if you had hit a car 2006, no warrant was out for your arrest, will that affect me? This that belongs in a consultation because that's very complex. You want to make sure you're getting the right legal advice based on the facts. Do I file my I-130 in court if I have a pending asylum or USCIS? Now, the I-130 is not filed in court. It's filed at the USCIS, and then the court can determine whether you qualify for adjustment of status, and they may allow you to go through the court with the adjustment of status, but usually you have to have the approved I-130 first. How does it take to obtain a work authorization based on asylum? 6 months for the ordinary timeline. You're welcome. How long for EAD and biometrics after receipt notice? Married to U.S. citizen, 3 to 6 months for EAD. Biometrics, we just submitted an application, marriage-based application, at the end of December, and we have a biometrics appointment already. So they are dishing out those biometrics appointments very quickly, which tells me once again, they really want to process people's cases fast. They're trying to do that. So we have to help them out by giving them great, solid, thorough applications with everything they're asking for. I-531, how long after biometrics do you get SSN? And work permit, you have to apply for the work permit at the 150-day after you've applied, and then at the 180-day mark, they can issue the work permit. How long after getting an email saying that they got all fees before they give you a date for interviews? So if we're talking about the embassy outside of the U.S., I'm thinking that's what you're talking about, being documentarily qualified. That's the only time I've really seen an email. I mean, although unless you have a USCIS account, but you're looking at about a year and a half for the interview if you're outside of the country. Do I file I-130? Okay, so what if you have had, so I answered that. Okay, this 180 on EAD, does this include the 150? Yes, so it includes a 150 wait period. Do you help people in Jamaica get the work permit as well? If you're in Jamaica, you can't get a work permit, you'd have to look at a work visa. To get the work visa, you have really an employer has to do that for you. So if you overstayed your visa, can you still help with that? Yes, absolutely. The way that I start though is I ask you a number of questions to determine whether, despite the overstay, do you qualify. T visa process costs. So I don't provide quotations because every case is different. And so what I do is I first make sure you qualify for the T visa by asking very specific questions. And then once I determine you qualify and I determine the facts in your case, I can provide you a quote. I can tell you that the investment to move forward would be $150 for the consultation. All right, so let's go here, and I'm on YouTube, so put those questions in the comments now. I'm going through each platform, so go ahead, put your questions in the comments. Please, how many years can someone wait to get green card when someone filed for VAWA? Right now, it's about 36 months, so 3 years. Why would your I-765 approved in VAWA and no travel document, even though you applied for the said? So sometimes they're trying to push the work permit out because most people want to get started on working. So they push the work permit out and then they send the travel document afterwards. So my wife withdrew my I-130 and my children's I-130, and immigration denied our I-485 and sent letters to leave country within 33 days. But I already filed for and sent it last year, October 2023. So it sounds like you're on track, but I don't know what else you're asking. What makes a VAWA case give you work permit first, then make you wait for green card and travel document, or not give you a green card at all? So with the VAWA, if your priority date is current, or you're the spouse of you're the parent, you're the child of a U.S. citizen, you can apply for the adjustment of status to get the work permit and travel document while you wait for the green card. So that's what is the difference between maybe a spouse of a permanent resident. The spouse of the permanent resident has to first apply for the VAWA and then wait for their priority date to become current. And with a priority date current, um, once it's current, it means you've reached the top of your wait list and you can apply for adjustment of status while being here. So the VAWA, applying for VAWA still allows you to be here while your process is going forward, but it doesn't give you the work permit until you can apply for the adjustment of status. Is evidence for good moral character necessary when working with VAWA? Yes, but keep in mind, so for example, when I represent my clients, we submit an FBI background check. So we organize our clients to do the background check. We get the FBI background check on behalf of our clients, attach it to the petition, and we've never had a problem with good moral character. Now, if our clients do have additional issues like criminal issues where they've been previously arrested, then in that case, we make sure to amp up some of that evidence showing that our clients do have good moral character despite whatever happened. Does Jamaica qualify to apply for the EB2 section C visa? Yes. Can I file adjustment of status, my status, while showing on pending J1 waiver subject to a 2-year? So the way that they look at the adjustment of status is at the time that you're applying for your adjustment of status, were you admissible? And was it an approvable application? So if your J1 visa hasn't been approved yet, they're going to look on that date. What did you have a waiver already approved on the date that you filed your application? If not, then they can conclude that you don't qualify. They'll deny your adjustment of status, tell you to refile when you that get that waiver approved. So you have to be careful about that. Remember that they look at the date you filed the adjustment of status to determine whether you had the 2-year foreign residency requirement effective on the date you filed. All right, I'm on Instagram, and you're welcome, Devron. If a person came across the border and already got the work permit and social, and they want to get married to a citizen police officer, will they still get an interview? Possibly, because what happens is it really comes down to the quality of your application. Doesn't matter that you're married to a police officer. They still want to know that your marriage to the police officer is bona fide. So it's possible. What determines whether you get that green card waive is the quality of your application. That's why we've had such good results. All right. I'm on Instagram. Put your questions in the comments. How soon can I put in papers after marriage? You can put in your papers right away as long as you feel confident that you have the evidence necessary to prove that your marriage is bona fide, that you meet the income requirements and so forth. So I would say right away, but is it advisable, right? That's another question. You don't want to be rushing and submitting your application. And then it's, as I said before, there are gaps, there are things missing. And as a result of that, you are delayed. And usually when things are missing, that's where, the immigration service, that's a red flag for an interview. So you don't want to, you want to get into an ASAP, of course, but you want to make sure you have everything you need to make it a successful process. Do all witness letters get verified by USCIS by either calling or home visiting based on VAWA? No, no, no. That's against the law. If if you had witnesses who submitted letters talking about what happened to you, they cannot call the witnesses and tell them, oh, we saw your letter and now we're investigating. They cannot do that because it's against the law to do that. The Immigration Service cannot disclose to third parties anything about your VAWA application. They can only stay within the four corners of the application that you submitted. So, this is where the officer makes sure that your application is credible, it's believable. This is where, once again, as with the marriage based process, it's so important to pay attention to details here because the officer is not going to call you. So even when they're deciding the VAWA petition itself, they're not going to call you. They may do it in the form of an RFE, but they're not going to like call up the spouse, call up witnesses. They're just going to look to see, are you presenting a believable case to them? If so, then you're likely to be approved. But if there are contradictions, holes, they spot all sorts of gaps in your declaration that just does not give them enough details to determine whether it's credible, then you could be looking at a denial there. So very important to submit a detailed application from the start. Which process is best when changing from F1 to H1B? So there's only really one process when you're going from F1 to H1B. So it just depends on the employer whether you qualify, but going into H1B, there's just one process. When a person came across the border and want to get married to so I answered that one. How soon after I get married can I file my paperwork? I answered that. Uh, how soon after marriage can I file for change of status? I basically answered that. How long does it take before applying for citizenship after getting green card? So if you're married to a US citizen, you stay married to the US citizen throughout the citizenship process, 3 years. If you are married, if you're not married but you got your green card in other ways, like through an employer, through other family members, through the T status, you're looking at, or asylum, you're looking at 5 years. If 5 years before you can get the citizenship. If you're in the military, you could be looking at 1 year. Now, yeah, yeah. So that's a timeline for going from citizenship to green card. How soon after EAD you get the green card when filing adjustment of status for marriage? So I don't really count the days from the EAD. I usually count from the filing. As long as you submit a solid application, I would say so. The shortest I've seen for within my firm is 4 months, and the longest is a little over a year. But I say on average, most are coming through within 8 to 9 months. Do you cover the whole of the USA or only your state? The entire US, yes. So I represent clients in all 50 states and the globe. So no matter where you are, I can help you. What can be considered as evidence for smuggling T visa? So your declaration is going to be very important, and this is one of the things that we focus on for our clients. We help our clients get through the process of putting what they experienced onto paper so that the officer can see the details. It usually has to be very detailed for the officer to understand that the credibility of your account and be able to make a decision. Now, of course, we've submitted other evidence that we've had. So, for example, with smuggling, do you have communications with the smugglers that smugglers slash traffickers who took you across the border? If you do, then we would want to see some of that correspondence between you and the smugglers. Did you have to transfer money? Because many of them require payments, various types of payments, wire transfers in some cases. Can you show the money that was transferred to the traffickers or smugglers in the process? And any other. Do you have text messages, airline tickets, things of that nature to show? But the most important is going to be your statement and your account of what you went through. I'm on my visiting visa and my mother is citizen. I want to stay. Can I apply for, I guess, the green card? So if your mother is a citizen, you're age 21 or older, it's going to be a 5 to 7 year process. And if you stay, you're going to mess up your chances to get the green card within a short period of time. Unfortunately, if you're 21 or over, you don't have this option. If you're under 21, then you qualify to stay here, get the green card, but you need to move fast if you're under 21. Hi there, Ricky Flossie. Nice to see you. Happy New Year to you too. When will the fee USCIS change? So we're still keeping an eye. They haven't made any formal announcements, but I did see the email about the increase on the premium processing, and they said due to inflation, it's going up. So I am waiting for for the formal announcement for the rest of it to be increased, because everything is going up because of inflation right now. This is another reason to act quickly, so you are not faced with prohibitive costs, because right now, the family-based adjustment of status process is about 1760. You could then be looking at upwards of 2,500, maybe even 3,000 to do the adjustment of status per person. With the VAWA, that will go up as well, because now you're paying a higher adjustment of status application fee. Can I get the work permit on a visitor's visa? No. You can't just get it on the visitor's visa, but if you want to, in some cases, what happens. So I'll give you an example of where my clients didn't get it because they were on the visitor's visa. Because remember, when you're on the visitor's visa, you're not allowed to work. So they cannot, you can't come and apply for a work visa based on visitors visa. You know what they'll end up doing? They'll probably take away your visa, because now you're showing intent to work in the United States. But here's an example of a situation where a client came with their visitor's visa and got their work permit. So they came here on the work visa because they were recruited by someone who told them, come here. If you come here and work for us, we'll get you your work visa. They came here, they started to work for the employer. Turns out the employer duped them. This is a lie. They just did this, told them this lie to make them work for them. And that means they committed fraud. So usually, though, I get these calls after the client has overstayed and they're now in full realization that they are not getting this work permit that was promised to them by the employer. At that point, we can identify that they went through labor trafficking through fraud, meaning they were lied to, and as a result of that, forced into work that they really would not have signed up for if had it not been for this false and fraudulent promise. That is where we've gotten our clients the work permit through the T visa process. But just having your visitor's visa alone is not going to get you your work permit. So what's the cost for T visa application? So the T visa application, there is no cost for the T visa filing fee. And based on the chart that I read, when they first announced that they were going to increase fees, they will not be increasing the fee for the T visa. However, where you will see a fee is where some of my clients, maybe they came into the country through smuggling, like somebody asked about T visa through smuggling. They may have been smuggled into the United States, and when they were smuggled here, that's crossing the border without permission. We also refer to it as EWI, right? Entry without inspection. And when they did that, they committed an immigration violation that requires them to apply for a waiver. But once the immigration service finds um, that they are finds that this person does qualify for the T, they are usually very uh, generous about providing a waiver to assist the victim of trafficking, this person who was smuggled in without entry, to get the waiver. So, once they determine that the facts line up and you qualify for the T, they usually give the waiver. No, the waiver does cost though. The waiver is $930 right now, and that's probably gonna go up. How can I live in the US? Oh my gosh, story of my life. I can spend hours talking about how you can live in the US because there are so many ways that I wouldn't be able to tell you all of that now. But the way there are different, you can come here on an employment visa, you can come here as a permanent resident if you qualify. If you're already here and you want to stay here, you could explore your options through employment or through family members or a spouse that you really and truly fall in love with. But it's so many ways. But we would have to talk about that. Or you could continue to follow me. And after a couple of months of following me, you probably will put all of the answers together here. Do you have a free consultation? So right now we don't have any specials. The investment is $150 for the half an hour right now. I'm a nail technician and I want to work there. So if you're a nail technician, here's an idea. Maybe you've been thinking about expanding your nail business. If you have a nail salon, maybe you want to expand it to the United States. If you are from these three countries in the Caribbean, you could possibly qualify for the E2 Treaty Investor Visa. So if you're from Trinidad and Tobago, you're from Grenada, or you're from Jamaica, and you can show that you have the substantial investment to put into opening up a business here, say a nail salon business here, then you could very much qualify to stay here, live here on a temporary basis as long as you're running that business. So keep that one in mind, right? That's an idea. If you really want to take your skills and your talents here to the United States, that's one way to get it. Now, you don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to invest $1 million like the EB-5 visa, investor's visa, but you do have to show that for the type of business that you're investing in, you're opening here, that you are investing a substantial amount based on what's usually invested in a business like this. And a part of this is showing that your business does have the uh, the likely potential to grow, and that you will not be making a marginal amount. That means that you're not just making money to support yourself, but you're making enough money that your business is going to thrive. You could possibly hire other people, other U.S. workers. That's what they like to see with the E2 Treaty Investor Visa. You'd have to go to the embassy for that one. What is the future hope for immigrants on amnesty? So they have a number of bills that are pending. But here's my honest evaluation, and I really hope that a miracle happens, and I am wrong. I think between now and the election, we're not going to see a lot of movement. And I've talked about this before that, if you notice, you even see a little switch in the Biden administration. Biden has recently said that he's really willing to sell out his fair and just policies, that was his goal before. He's willing to sell that out if he could get some funding for Ukraine. If he needs to negotiate with Congress to get that funding for Ukraine, he'll be willing to give up some concessions. And that's telling me that he may not necessarily be as staunch in his position for immigration reform. He's willing to bend. And so I'm noticing there's this tone, and we have different laws being passed in different states, anti-immigrant laws. We have in Florida, we have in Texas, and as a result of that, I really don't think we're going to have a lot of movement on amnesty between now and the election. But here's the hopeful part. While what I am doing is I am praying for the best, but I'm hoping that I'm praying for the best, but I'm planning for also the worst case scenarios here. Um, in the best case scenario, we have a Congress that will be filled with now individuals who are staunch supporters of fair and just immigration reform. We have a president who can also push forth the agenda of positive, fair, and just immigration reform. That might mean Biden again, because maybe after Biden wins, we'll see him go back to his original position. But right now, he's in self-protective mode, and he is closing up about his previous promises about immigration reform. But I think we would be better off with Biden as president in regards to immigration reform than, say, Trump or even Nikki Haley, and she's gaining on Trump right now. Nikki Haley is gaining on Trump, but she doesn't have the best immigration um, track record either. And then, of course, there's DeSantis, but of all of them, Trump is the worst. And DeSantis is really bad too. But Trump, we're looking at possible mass deportations, you know, backlash against immigrants in proportions we've probably never seen before if he comes into office. So my hope is that after the election, we'll see a president who supports fair, just immigration reform and a fair and just immigration policy to allow policies to move forward. And in that case, we can move forward with progressing. So. Let me know if you can hear me. I just got interrupted on Instagram. Just let me know if my sound is out. All right, so let me go here. I see a number of questions coming in. Let me know on Instagram. Can you hear me? Oh, no sound. All right, so let me come out. No sound. All right, so I have to come out here and then go back in. Bear with me as I go in. All right. Okay, so let's look here. So we'll talk soon, Tesh. Yes, and Rakisha, you're welcome. How long does one require to file after marriage? How long one? Just keep in mind, there's no time period to wait, but you want to know if it's the right time. Do you have all the evidence? Is it advisable? Thanks so much for joining me again on Instagram. So sorry I got interrupted, and because of that, the sound went out. It's so annoying, but thanks for your patience. So I was just someone asked about what's the hope regarding immigration reform, and keep in mind that right now I would say just figure out your options now. Plan for plan for you know the worst, but let's pray for the best. um, if the Democratic side wins, then we could be looking at be looking at a fair and just immigration reform in the future. We can be looking at these bills and laws that are pending moving forward. But if Trump wins, if Nikki Haley wins, if anybody on that side wins, we could see a bigger backlash against immigrants, and it could get ugly. It could get a lot more restrictive. So we, just prepare either way. I like to be positive, but I am a lawyer, so I always also plan for the worst case scenarios. How long after I-485 approval notice is the green card, please? So the green card, probably a week, maybe 2 weeks. Been here 5 years, been with my BF boyfriend for 2 years, plan on getting married this year. Do I have a chance of getting my green card? Yes, you do. You have it. Take it. It's better to have your documents in than not have them in at all and then have to face the terrible policies that may be coming in soon. So right now, it's definitely urgent to make sure you get that rolling. Can one stay up to 3 months before filing for marriage based? So if this is, it depends, right? You shouldn't be making any big decisions like staying or possibly overstaying your visa until you get legal advice. Because if you're the spouse of a citizen, it's not going to hurt as much. But if you're the spouse of a permanent resident, you end up staying 3 months, then you file, but then you overstayed your visa, you're looking at big problems. So keep that in mind. Um, Boyfriend came with H-2A visa. Can he change status after marriage? Yes, as long as he's married to a U.S. citizen. And if he's maintaining his current status and married to a permanent resident, then yes, he just has to maintain his status. Does anyone with PhD have the opportunity in the US, and which one will of the visa? So you have extraordinary ability, you have the EB2. Those are specially geared towards people with advanced degrees like PhD, and you show that you have a lot of experience and potential in your field. Then yes, you can definitely pursue those. I mean, it takes a lot of analysis to determine whether your credentials qualify, but having a PhD is certainly a good start. Initial I-485 was denied. Spouse was LPR. We refiled since he became a citizen. Will I have to leave? If no, so if I don't know your case, but if you refile after your spouse became a citizen, then you're in a good position to get it as long as you qualify in every other way. How long is your medical valid after it has been sealed by the doctor? I believe it's 2 years right now. I'd have to check to see if they changed it back to the 1 year. I don't believe I saw any announcements that they did, but I believe it's 2 years. How long a fiance visa process and what's the requirements? So you're looking at about a year and a half, and your fiance has to be a U.S. citizen. You have to show the intention to get married within 90 days of entry into the U.S., and you have to meet in person, show that you've met in person in the most recent 2 years before submitting that fiance visa application. If you cannot meet because of extreme hardships, then there's a waiver that you can apply for to show either extreme hardships, or if there's some kind of tradition or custom in your culture that prevents you from meeting your fiance beforehand, then you can apply for that waiver as well. All right, I'm gonna quickly go through. I don't want to get another interference here. Yes, how long do you think it will take? Can I submit EAD with I-130 for AOS? EAD with I-130, it has the EAD goes with the I-485, the adjustment of status. The I-130 is not the adjustment of status application. So make sure you get legal advice and representation, because you see these type of technicalities is what leads to a lot of problems. It's not understanding what needs to go with what. Why is that? Why is the EAD not going with the I-130? Why does the EAD have to go with the I-485? So make sure you get representation. All right, that's going to be it for me today. Thanks so much, everyone, for your questions. I appreciate it. I'm going to really work on getting back here at lunchtime tomorrow, and I'll bring a topic. You can bring your questions again, and we can talk about those questions and talk about any updates I may have. Thanks again. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.